I'd like to call the May 2nd, 2022 meeting of the City Council for the City of Lake City to order. If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, remain standing for the invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings on our community. We ask for your guidance tonight, that what we do is for the betterment of our community and pleasing in your eyes. We ask that you look after our citizens, our first responders, and our troops. And in your name we pray. Amen. Ms. Sykes, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Hill.
Here.
Mr. Jefferson.
Here.
Mr. Sampson.
Here.
Mayor Witt.
Here.
Mr. Dial.
Here.
Mr. Coverline.
Here.
Chief Butler.
Here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened this public meeting. Since 1968, the city code has prohibited any person from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the city council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There is only one approved manner of addressing the city council, that is to be recognized and speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting. Under proclamations, we have two. The first one is Building Safety Month. Whereas in the city of Lake City is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. Whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of this buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry to work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. Whereas those guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, play. And whereas our nation benefits economically and technologically from using the international codes that are developed by national voluntary consensus codes and standards developing organizations, our government is able to avoid the high cost and complexity of developing and maintaining these codes, which are the most widely adopted building safety and fire prevention codes. Whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes, which according to FEMA commissioned study by the National Institute of Building Sciences provide $11 in future mitigation benefits for every dollar invested. Whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of communities, largely unknown protectors of public safety. Our local code officials assure us of safe and efficient and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. Whereas safer buildings, safer communities, safer world, the theme for Building Safety Month 2021 encourages all Americans to raise awareness about the importance of safety, resilient construction, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction. Building Safety Month encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure the safety of our built environment and recognize the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies that has saved lives and protected homes and businesses. Whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential services provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, federal agencies, and protecting lives and property. Now therefore, I, Stephen E. West, Mayor of the City of Lake City, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our membership to join with their communities in participation in building safety. And here, for this proclamation, we have Robert Angelo, Ann Jones, and Marshall Soap. If y'all would come forward. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next is Municipal Clerks Week, May 1st through the 7th, 2022, whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk provides a professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on function of local governments and community, whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through the participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, province, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it's most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of this Office of Municipal Clerk. Now therefore, I, Stephen M. Witt, Mayor of the City of Lake City, do hereby recognize the week of May 1st through the 7th, 2022 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our Municipal Clerk, Audrey Sykes, and to the Municipal Clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. And for this one, we have our Clerk, Audrey Sykes, Nikki Starling, Michelle Cannon, and Alexis Ross. Thank you. Okay, we have minutes from the April 11th, 2022 special session. April 18th, regular session, and April 26th, special session.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of the minutes. Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes as published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of the agenda. I've been asked to move items 20 and 21 up, and I'm gonna put that at the end of the approval of the consent agenda. With that amendment, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Mr.
Where are you moving?
To aye.
Right under the consent agenda.
Okay. Right after 7.
Mayor, are you saying that you're adding them to the consent agenda
No, no,
or under, okay.
just under them, yeah. Okay, is there a motion?
A motion to approve the agenda as published,
As
not
amended.
as published, but with the addition.
Amended, okay.
Amended.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're at public, agenda. Ricky Jernigan.
Good afternoon, Councilman and Mayor. I'm Ricky Jernigan. I live at 1723 Southwest Leslie Glenn, Lake City, Florida, 32055. I brought this gentleman here with me, and I got the pictures of on Laura Lynn, right where Circle K was built and the laundromat's there. I think Mr. Todd Sampson owned that laundromat there. I don't know if I'm supposed to say your name or not, but I think he owns that laundromat, and that used to be a dead end. And what they've done is, when Circle K come in and they basically open up the back door behind that laundromat for people to drive through that street. And they're getting all kind of traffic in that street, down that street. And it's disturbing the residents that live down there. Of course, years ago, it was visited by Mr. Helfenberger, I think it was. And, but to no avail, nothing really happened. But now it's getting to be a really pain for the residents that live in that particular area on Laura Lynn. So I'd just like for you to revisit that area and put those barriers back. That way the traffic can't just go through and to Circle K or even get to the laundromat. And those barriers are very important to the residents that's over there. So I brought you a couple of pictures, and I'd like for this gentleman here to speak on it. That way, he can give you more details on it, because he actually lived on that particular street. So I'll give this to Mr. Dowell, and he'll take a look at it, please, if y'all don't mind revisit it. Todd, would you like to speak on it or on that particular area? Okay. If you can revisit that and put those barriers back there, that way that traffic can't just go right to the laundromat, or can't go right through the Circle K, or right to another business to the left of there, instead of using somebody's backyard or street. I mean, that's really bad. I went down there myself today and took a look at it, and I guess you say, well, you live on Leslie Street, why are you concerned about this street, right? Because it's in that district. They don't have anybody they can really talk to, because Mr. Green is not here. So they asked me to come up and, well, they actually didn't ask me to do it. I told them I would do it, to look into it. So if you would, just take a look at it, Mr. Dowell, and see if we can get those barriers back up there. That way, these residents can live at peace at night, instead of traffic just going straight down Lower Lynn there to the laundromat and to the Circle K, and even that other business that's down there, okay? Hey, I really appreciate you guys even listening to me. Go ahead, please.
Ricky, I'll give it, I need to make a copy before he has it. Yep.
Okay, go ahead, give your name and address. Sir.
Yes, my name is Aaron Trippinsey, and I live on 827 Southwest Laurel Lane. And previously, I brought this issue up to the board to consider the amount of traffic that would be loaded onto Laurel Lane by the Circle K by allowing a backdoor entrance. And I'm understanding that the Circle K applied for access to Laurel Lane, and that was denied by the city. I then subsequently talked with Mr. Sampson and also Mr. Helfenberger.
That was before I was on this council, by the way, Mayor.
Right.
Mr. Helfenberger, and they explained that between the two, they were going to put up a concrete barrier so that the Circle K traffic could not have a straight shot into their business. Now, since that's all opened up, we've now got the laundromat traffic using the back door. And then also the other business on Bay Avenue has thought that'd be a good idea too. And so they also own the residential lot right behind their business. And now they're allowing their business traffic to go through the yard of the residents onto Laurel Lane. All this traffic going onto the street where I live is only a one-lane road. Traffic's now going head-on all over the place, hundreds of cars a day. And I asked the city to reconsider this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Shamari Bowden.
Mayor, Mr. Shamar Bowden, 1156 Baskin Roberts Drive, Lake City, Florida. I come today just because I wanted to speak to the council like I have before about taking the time to consider residents and your constituents when they come and speak before the council, and not just give them the 3 minutes and then hopefully this goes away. People take time to come up here, speak before the council, deliver a message that's important to them. I think the council should, in return, at least at the bare minimum, let the constituent feel that they've been heard. A lot of times I feel like, Mayor, you just kind of, your favorite saying is, I'm gonna look into it. And then if somebody has some sort of political awareness or says something that the council doesn't like, then they either point or order them or find a way to shut their comment down if they don't like what they're saying. But that's the job that you signed up for. That's just the truth of the matter. And if you're not up here to represent the people and do it with some sort of backbone and some sort of seriousness, then you shouldn't be up here. And I think that a lot of times that people comments get misconstrued because of the tone of their voice and not necessarily the substance of their argument. And that is just really shameful. I think that this council knows that it's been a lot of back and forth about how they're perceived as in the community. And I think that sometimes that self-awareness is the best awareness. And I think that, Mr. Mayor, that it has become kind of clear to me that I think that the council kind of feels like they're doing a great job and that we, the people, are the problem. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, my dad said, you know, the order is us, that we are at the top. And I think that you should really, really consider that, because that is what's the problem, is that when people are fed up, then you get what they give you. You don't get, I'm going to come up here and be cordial and nice, and I'm going to have some decorum, as the word that we're using. But if decorum doesn't get you anywhere, then you have to go ahead and act up. And I think it's time that you guys have some self-awareness. I don't think you need a workshop for it, but I think you need to you need to take a real close look at what's going on in the council and not necessarily at the podium outside. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Glenn Baldwin.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I wanted to use this opportunity to acknowledge and to express my appreciation to the second best city attorney. And I say the second best because of who he followed. The second best city attorney that the city of Lake City has ever had, and that's in the person of Fred Coberline. I mentioned that, Mayor, to be sure that this city council is starting to think ahead, you know, because at some point in time, Mr. Coberline is going to be leaving. And because I know him, I'm sure he's probably reaching out to y'all individually having a conversation. But I would hope that this process, once it starts, it be open and transparent, and that it be done out in the public setting at a city council meeting or at a workshop. And I would hope, Mayor, that while there's no urgency right now, we're talking about months away. I would hope that come January of 2022, that we not be looking for an interim city attorney. And the only way you can avoid that you start the process, work out a plan, and go ahead and start as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're gonna find ourselves come November, December, in a rush, you know, because swearing in taking place, the election's over with, and everybody excited about a new circuit judge, and we'll be here looking for a city attorney. So, you know, I may be sounding sarcastic, but I'm serious about that process. I think it's something that y'all need to start talking about in a public setting and start the process. I'm not saying Mr. Coberline needs to leave before his time is up, but I think you need to have something in place and not wait until he's sworn in and then, oh my God, we need a city attorney. You know now that you're going to need a city attorney because he's going to become the next circuit judge for the Third Circuit. And I do want to congratulate him and thank him for his service. And I said he's the second best in the city of Lake City. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have signed up for this time, so we will move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we're on item 20 and 21, and Item 20, Mr. Sabo, could you come up and do that one?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The first case I'm bringing in front of you is 331 Northwest Gwin Lake Boulevard. It was purchased recently by Sylvester Warren. There was a lien placed on this property back in December of 2016. After totaling up all the fines for the lien, the total lien as of today is $93,512.92. I gave you 5 options for the council to decide what they want to do. As of this date also, photos were taken. They should be in your packet. There has been no cleanup as of now. Mr. Warren did advise me that he is going to start cleaning up the property to bring it up to code. So I'll leave it in front of y'all to make a decision on what y'all want to do with this thing.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Warren.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Dixon, I'd like to thank you too for moving this up, Mayor. How I came to acquire this property is not actually my property. Actually acquired it by default. It's actually for Mr. Leonard Dixon. He asked me to check into it. He was at work. And so when I made the purchase, I didn't sign the agreement to be his agent, so end up buying it using my money. And actually it's his property. And I'm just stuck on there, and we're trying to get the lien resolved so that way we can get it all transferred and cleaned up. But in order to do any of this, we got to first know that the city is willing to remove the lien so there's a clear title. We'll get the property cleaned up. There's several companies I've talked to. It's no big deal to go in and get the work done. But it's like any other thing. You don't want to get the work done and you're holding a $93,000 lien from the city. So I think, talking to Mr. Dixon, I think he's spoken to several of the council members. I think Jacobson, your district is right there off of Gwin Lake and close to Edie right there at the stop sign. But nonetheless, it's a house that's been burnt down for years. It's something that we got the funds available. If the city agreed to waive the lien, we'll send a company in there and get that thing pushed down. I think on the way walking in, I may have convinced Mr. Dixon to take that house out there too, instead of trying to remodel it. So it's up to you, council. We can get rid of $93,000 liens, send a company in there, clean it up, and hopefully put something nice back there. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the property does need to be cleaned up. Also, that house needs to be torn down, my recommendation.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, so this house, I think it went up for tax sale 4 years ago, I think, maybe 5. It didn't sell because whoever buys it has to get rid of the house. And so it sat there. It would have, had it not been purchased, it would have escheated to the county and our lien would have been wiped off anyways. I mean, if Mr. Dixon's willing to improve this property, remove that house, once it's removed, I don't see any problem with removing the lien once that house is removed. I mean, it would improve the value of everything around it.
Is that a motion?
Well, like I said, I know the property that you're talking about. I know in the past we have removed liens on property. So I would make a motion that the lien be removed as long as he cleaned the property up.
At the end, right? After he's cleaned it?
Yeah.
Second.
Mayor,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
interrupt your second, offer to Mr. Hill to amend the motion to give a certain amount of time. We've done this for municipalities where, by the way, this is the correct procedure. Before you buy a house, you actually look at the title to it, and then you come in and you ask to work something out. So this is the absolutely correct procedure to handle this type of request. But the problem arises is that due to unforeseen circumstances, time may go on, owners may change, things like that. You would want to give a certain amount of time, whether it be 30 days or 300 days, but give some type of time so that we can memorialize it in a writing so that the potential purchaser or assignee would have that type of security, and also the city would be secured.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I put on one of the actions, up to 12 months.
Right.
But y'all can decide how long y'all ever want.
What you want?
6 months.
I think that's fair time.
6 months, good.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Ms. Oxby, call the roll.
Mayor, so the motion is to remove the lien on the parcel
Yes.
after the property is cleaned up, and we're giving, them 6 months to complete the work.
Correct.
Can we cite the amount for the motion? Are we're giving the 93,500?
Yeah.
What about the administrative charges as well? So is it 93,512, or is it just the 93,500?
The administrative cost is, $12.92.
Okay. So what would we like to do, Mr. Hill?
Just remove the whole, 93.
912.
Can they do the administrative cost spread?
You do not want to do a finite amount because it changes.
Okay.
You want to do a percentage. It's 100%, it's 90%, and the percentage is the equitable way to do it, and it helps with the
100%,
compensation.
yes, 100%.
Second, yep.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yeah. Okay, that's item 21, so we're going back up to 20 now, right?
Yes, that was 21.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I got out of line.
That's okay. We took care of it.
Okay, the second lien is, for residents out at 862 Northwest Georgia Avenue. The previous owner was Magnolia TC3. The current owner is Aaron Compton. The purchaser of the property at this point is, All Track Properties LLC. The first lien was put on was August 14th of 2014 by a special magistrate with a $50 a day fine. 2,773 days later, the fine cost for the lien is $415,950, which is a mailing cost or administrative cost of $6.90 added to it. The property has been cleaned up. We have the before and after pictures in the agenda. The property looks great to me now. They did a good job cleaning up. I gave you the 5 council options, what you want to do. But that's all I have.
Okay. That's the pleasure of council.
So there's no, code violation on the property?
No code violation at all.
Resolved?
Yes, sir.
Property owner has cleaned it up, so forth.
That's correct.
Big improvement looking at the pictures. I'd make a motion that we'd waive 100% of that lien and administrative costs.
Okay.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Oxby, you call the roll.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Council.
Okay, let's get back to be on item
8.
okay, discussion possible action city manager position. Had a couple people want to speak to this. Mr. Leskowitz.
I'll be brief. You all know I spoke to you last week. In the week that's passed since then, I've been approached by dozens and dozens of people, most of whom I know, but some whom I didn't know. Calls, telephone calls, also from people I knew and some from those I did not know. Several dozen people in the week called me and said they were very appreciative of what I stood up and spoke about and what recommendations I made at that time. There are a lot of people in this community who are not pleased with the situation, and you may find a sleeping giant among them that will awaken someday if action isn't properly taken down the road to fix our situation. And oh, just by the way, I believe when the motion was made last week to hire Mr. Adams as a temporary city manager for 6 months and $70,000, has anybody ever vetted him? You would have been taking a vote, if somebody would have voted yes, you would have put a man in office without even vetting him. And you would have found out afterwards.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
point of order, he's attacking Mr. Adams' character. I would say anyone who's a full bird colonel in the United States military has been pretty well vetted, but there would be more vetting beforehand, yes.
Well, but I don't know, it seemed like you were gonna make a decision and do it last week. But anyhow, the point is, you don't know his personality. And the personality of a city manager is very important in context of the people he's gonna be working with in the city.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
so can I respond to that too?
Yes.
So we did interview Mr. Adams. He came, we met with him one-on-one. He had an open invitation to meet with all the citizens here in this room. So, I mean, I felt I had a good handle on his personality, so maybe, I don't know if you didn't come to that event. I mean, it was pretty well advertised. But he did come and he did meet here and he was here locally.
All right, if you're satisfied, I just say, this is one of the things that kind of slips through sometimes, and sometimes you wind up with a ringer that looks like, you know, a golden ball. Not that he is. but
Mr.
what-
Mayor, may I make one more comment? So last week too, you mentioned the fact that we don't have anyone sitting in your seat there in your district. I know that I've heard from several people in your district, however, and I don't know what I can say about this due to the pending lawsuits. The reason no one's sitting in that seat is because there's a writ that's stopping us from filling it. I didn't know if you had that
I'm
information.
aware of that, yes.
Okay,
Right.
that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
He's also aware of how we got to that point.
All right, next is Mr. Bowden.
Mr. Mayor, I kind of wanted to wait and see what the discussion was going to be about, but since I'm up, I want to make this observation about the process. As I said last week, I would attend all of the meetings. I had not missed one, and been in person. One thing that I think is happening that concerns me is that Mrs. Norlock actually reached out to y'all individually. You know, talk to phone call here, phone call there, phone call each one of you. I think that's a problem. I think that for the most part, the conversation needs to be in the public area. I think what she's doing, she's getting an opinion from Mr. Jefferson, an opinion from Mr. Sampson, an opinion from you, Mayor, opinion from Mr. Hill, and she's trying to put all those four together and come up with a consensus. Well, that's not a violation of the sunshine, but it's definitely not transparent. Because I don't know what your conversation was like with Ms. Norlock. I don't know what Mr. Sampson was like, or Mr. Jefferson, or Mr. Hill, you know, and I don't have to know, but it's certainly not transparent. And it seems to me that the lady and I got 4 different opinions, trying to come up to satisfy everybody, and those of us who are in the public don't have the benefit of the conversation. So I would encourage going forward, number one, I agree with Mr. Sampson. I think that it's time for us to change. I've been saying that even before he made the motion. So there's no surprise. I really think it's time for us to employ another head or either use the ICA. But having said that, I do think that going forward, Mayor, as much of these conversations need to be in the public air. I do think the city council tonight, or whenever you decide, you can set up some parameters, how much you're willing to pay. I mean, all that need to be ironed out before you make your proposal. She shouldn't be able to call one night, somebody in the morning and get an opinion. And I know she's not sharing her opinion with y'all, because that'd be a violation of the sunshine, but it's not transparent. There's no way you can call that transparent when the lady who we paying money is talking to y'all individually and coming up with some ideas about what you all want. And as my son said, and I said before, it also got something to do with what we want, who sits at the top of that pyramid, that's the citizen. So I would encourage you going forward that you have a lot more public conversation about what you want in terms of a city manager, and not these private conversations and where the ladies run around trying to please all 4 of you all and end up not pleasing anybody. And so that's my take on it, Mr. Mayor, and I hope that we're in the process now moving on and with the process, and if possible, moving on with another head on it.
Okay, we got a, email from Ms. Norlock today, giving an update that she's advertising again with all the League of Cities, and so Florida Association of Counties, Florida City County Management, and the International City County Management, and as she says, there's always people coming out that may be looking today that wasn't looking a couple of months ago. So apparently she's gonna try to get a few more things with the pleasure of council. I think the salary, I think we figured it out, we're gonna have to come up to 130, 140.
Yes, I need to, clear the air on something. It's been said that this council want a minority, for the city manager. Jake view on that, Jake wants the best qualified person for that job. I don't care if he's black or white or Asian or whatever. I want the best qualified person for that job. Now, saying that, the best qualified person for that job the first time happened to be a minority. My opinion, the second time happened to be a minority over a guy with a year or two experience. So I don't know where they're getting this idea that I want a minority. I just want a minority for a city manager, which I don't. It would be nice to have one, but I want that seat to be filled with somebody that's qualified. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, so going back to the salary discussion, I went back to Wendell Johnson because he was the last full-time manager we had in 2018, and annualizing out what he made and looking at 17 and 16 salaries, his package, because the city was giving him an extra $25,000 in retirement, was $155,000. That was his income in 2016. This is not counting the benefits. In 2017, it was $150,000, and he left in April of 2018. And if you annualize that year, his salary would have been $163,000. Now, if you take that and you extrapolate the department heads and their 2018 salaries to what they are now, you average up the increases. The average increase across the 15 employees has been 20.83%. You take 163, you take the 20.83, that's 196. So we're well underpaying and looking. 160 is well within the range. I think that's about the right number. When you look at that, it just is staying in with what we were doing with Mr. Johnson. He had experience, and that's not even counting inflation where, the value that's only about 96 cents today. So then you're well over 200. But I'm just comparing the dollars that we paid him as a city manager compared to our department heads at that time to what we're paying now. So when we talk about 160, it's not out of the realm. At EMA this week, which is the Institute of Elected Officials, I went to the second level class for that. We had a lot of discussion about city managers, and I talked to a lot of different mayors and council people all over, and they have a lot of different issues going on. Everything from 3,600 citizens in a community with a 200,000+ manager, all the way to the ones that have been working over a year and can't hire anybody. In addition, we're watching towns like DeBerry came out, their manager was about to leave. They just gave him a $46,000 raise because the market for manager is not good. With that being said, I think one of the issues is when we first hired this headhunter, that's who should have come to us and said, this is the salary range we need to advertise. Instead of let's put out what y'all want, we should have gotten the information saying this is what we're looking at. If you know the market rate, then you're more likely to land market applicants. I don't think this has been handled well. We're well beyond the 90 days that the contract we signed said for her to find us somebody. I think it's time for us to move on and hire a new headhunter. I mean, if you go back to, and I reviewed the package we got before, if you go back to Basinger's package, just like the day that came up, I'm still in favor of that package. Their experience just speaks for itself. But going forward, I mean, we're gonna have to rethink what we're willing to pay. If we stick to saying we're only gonna pay for 140, you're gonna get another 140. Last time when the council that was here decided they were gonna pay 120 for Mr. Johnson's successor and not have these other monies, that you can see what happened. The level of management changed, obviously. So if we wanna get someone that level coming in again, then we can do that. I don't recommend it. I think we need to get a professional manager. I mean, they're running a $65 million budget. That's a lot of money to be managing. We need to make sure we get someone that's qualified.
When I mentioned 140, I think that may be the start, but we want quality, we want a good manager, and if it takes 160 to get a good manager, I'm all for it, because
I would like to mention some of that too. So yes, Mr. Adams only had a year and however many months, 8 months as a manager. The other gentleman we heard as a front runner that was mentioned had a sum total of 0 and got demoted in his last job. So it's looking at who's really the top candidate. I mean, I don't know, but to me, Mr. Adams was the top candidate. Thomas was the best candidate. We didn't get him. We didn't get him because he went somewhere that paid him $100,000 more than we offered him. So, I mean, we're gonna get what we pay for in management. I think we've borne that out with our last manager.
anybody else?
Well, Mr. Mayor, if we're going to offer, and I don't have no problem with that, as Mr. Sampson has already said, you know, you get what you pay for. But if we're gonna offer more, I think we need to advertise it as such, so that every applicant will know what we're placing out there, where our salary boundaries are, so that they will be able to apply for it. But whatever that salary is, it need to be advertised that way.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And part of that is looking at the applicant, or the advertisements being put out, which I couldn't find it last week. I know we got this email today stating that it's been put all over the place, but last week I couldn't find it. So to me, we need to do what's in the best interest of the city and ask for that money back we spent there and go a different direction. I've tried that twice and have not gotten a second, so I don't know that I need to make that motion again.
But, yeah, we all agree that we want to go with the 160?
I mean, we can compromise and give a range. We could say a range, 140 to 160, give a
That's
range,
what I would-
because I don't think she's given, I mean, and that's the other thing. Mr. Bowden had a very good point. The conversations in the dark. That's not a good way to run this thing. Really, we should have her on this screen or in this audience, and she should be telling us what's going on. Instead of talking to me and saying one thing, and who knows what she told each of you, I don't know. I think we need a fresh start with a new headhunter and someone that's gonna say, here's a range, let's stick to it. I mean, I don't remember her ever asking a range. I don't know where she came up with what the numbers were. She never asked me that. So I think she took what we paid the last guy when he came in, and that she said, well, they're at 120, we're gonna start at 120. Then when we met with those guys individually back in that conference room, neither one of them was interested at it for less than, Mr. Thomas came back at 140 after we negotiated a couple times, but the other guy said in that meeting he wouldn't do less than 160. So she hadn't communicated that to them, so they came here with different set of expectations than what we had. So it's real hard to hire someone when that expectation's not set by the time they get that far in the interview process. And I think it goes back to transparency. Put a range on it and advertise, and it might change the pool dramatically.
Okay, what y'all want, what range y'all want? No matter how we do it, what range do y'all?
I'm in agreement with 140 to 160.
Okay, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'm in agreement with that too, and I'll second.
Okay, and then a motion and a second, anything further on the salary? Looks like you call the roll.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Okay.
And so is someone gonna communicate with Ms. Narlock and make sure that she gets that information out so we can,
Ms. Satterfield, email her in the morning that we've done that.
and maybe, I was confused why she wasn't here last Monday when we were discussing that. I mean, I know before the meeting, Matt had mentioned, overheard him talking, saying, hey, is she gonna be on? And I think you said no, and, you know, I was confused then, why wouldn't she be here? we're doing a presentation of a candidate she brought to us. She should have been the one presenting the information to us. And yet she didn't show up, didn't bother to call, didn't do anything. And then I'm not sure if she wasn't available or if she's too tied up, but maybe we're too small for her. Maybe, I mean, I would like to have her at each meeting give a presentation saying this is where we're at and this is what's going on. Okay.
All right, anything else on this? Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move to discussion of possible action, city parks camera representative Matt Benedetto.
So sidewalks have been completed at all the city parks that were brought up in the past, Annie Maddox, Lake Montgomery, Youngs, and Sally Mae Jerry. Basically, each park, due to the lack of infrastructure we have there, is gonna take its own equipment to run. It'll all work with the existing system that we're in the process of putting in throughout the rest of the city. Basically, you know, in the interest of security, I can't go into all the details here openly, but I'm more than willing to speak to any of you if you have any more questions. But the bottom line of it is all 4 parks can be covered. All 4 parks will have all the equipment. This price includes the installation for a total of $80,667.37. So that's at the conclusion of the on-premises site walks with Motorola themselves. So it'll include cameras, cabling, installation. There are some things the city would need to do to facilitate this. For example, at Annie Maddox Park, the city would need to be able to provide electricity, which, in speaking with the chief, since this was submitted, the location that he was thinking would be most appropriate for coverage of the park, electricity is supplied there, which makes it less on the city. But just in full disclosure, if anything comes up with a future site walk, because the process of it is we did the initial site walk so they can get an idea and get pricing for amount of cameras, types of cameras, things like that. We'll most likely do at least one other site walk if we're moving forward with this project, in which case we would hash out the details of specific models and things like that of cameras, as well as amount of materials. It wouldn't exceed the price that we have here, so it's not gonna get higher, but some small details can change on those future site walks. So we would have to come in with the understanding that there is a chance that additional money would be required of the city, for example, if we wanted in a specific place that we needed to put a pole or run electricity to, that would be on the city to do. Motorola doesn't do that work. So the price you see here would cover locations and covering all those 4 parks. Shouldn't get any higher, but there is a possibility that there's a amount of money that would be provided to you guys in a future site walk. For example, if we need to put up a pole, run electricity, or provide anything the Motorola can't do infrastructure-wise. I don't foresee a large amount of that, but I just, like I said, want to make it clear that this isn't an all-encompassing price. There is a chance that we'll have a little bit more to pay or work to do on our end for each individual park, depending on where we want and what we want.
Okay, that's a pleasure. Council.
Mr. Mayor, I got a couple questions. So definitely we need them in all these places. Annie Maddox, I know they were hot to try to get an agreement to us on some things. I've yet to see that agreement. I understand, I guess they may not be so thrilled about it. We still need to get an agreement on these cameras. They got to happen.
Right.
Whether they decide not to do the other stuff and you know, do what they need to do, we still need an agreement on the cameras. So I mean, I think as part of this, if we decide to do it, we should go ahead and have our attorney start communicating with them about an agreement that allows us to put these cameras in place.
So is that a motion to make?
I'd make the motion to do that and move forward with the project.
Is there a second?
Mayor, the motion, we need some clarification. As an update, I met with the president of the Annie Maddox Rec Center Board last week. And they would like some revisions. They did not have the specifics of how they would like it revised. She did not have the specifics of how the board would like it revised. And so I'm waiting for any suggestions or requests. But as far as moving forward with just one item, we need clarification. Are we are you instructing my office to reach out to that board through its president to fashion some agreement related only to the security cameras?
Mr. Mayor, yes, exactly. In case we can't come to an agreement on everything else, we don't want this to fall by the wayside. And I think this price includes the whole package, so we don't want to buy it, have it ready, and then them come back and say, oh, we don't want to do it.
Right.
Correct, the taking off the park would, I can't say the exact amount for the park because it depends on some factors, but it would drop about $20,000 off of the total we're looking at. So it would go from an $80,000 project to about 60.
And it definitely, we need cameras at all the parks that are listed, so.
All right, would you ever get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, one point, so do we need to designate where the funds are coming from at the same time in the motion?
I think we already had
Or did we designate that?
earlier. I think that was in the budget.
Is that's not in the budget?
I don't have where these are coming from currently. We just did the sidewalk, but I haven't been given any indication of where the money would come from.
So I would make a motion that we would take those funds from the ARPA funds if it's allowed. ARPA. For public safety.
Have to read the documentation,
Okay,
see if that's allowable.
yeah, if it's allowable, that's where I think we should take it from.
If it's a problem,
And we can revisit it if that doesn't work.
All right, Ms. Sykes, you call the roll, please.
I just want to repeat this back because we've got it in several different places here. So the motion is to authorize the city attorney to work with the Animatics Board on an agreement related to the installation of security cameras. The motion authorizes to move the project forward in an amount not to exceed $80,667.37. And the motion identifies funding as ARPA.
I don't know is it $80,667.37 to Motorola or total? Because like I said, there might be some funding the city needs to supply for.
Let's say not to exceed 100,000.
It should be much less than that, but yeah.
I'll second that. Anything above that, it can come back to council.
I had Mr. Hill down as the second on that, did you?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Was he the second? See, I can't hardly hear, I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Jefferson, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes.
I just had one clarification question to that. So should we wait on my side for this agreement to come through for Animatics? Because they typically do the site walks, in their entirety for each location. I could set it up where we do multiple, but they'd usually travel from out of the area.
I would let Mr. Copeland get in touch with them in the next week and see if he can get this cleared up so we can just move forward with the whole thing. Just don't let it delay long.
Okay, I'll wait to hear back on that one then I'll schedule sidewalks depending on what he finds.
Sounds good. Okay, next is discussion possible action, composition of utility advisory committee, Mr. Sampson.
Okay, so we had discussed before that it may be that we need to change the composition and makeup of that advisory committee so that we don't have any sunshine law violations. Because there are times where the council members on that committee need to communicate with the staff that's also on the committee, and that committee makes a recommendation to this council for approval. And so that could be an issue. I know this committee had been set up this way for many years, but it's just come to light recently. I think the makeup of the committee and who shows up to the meetings is two different things. I think we still need all of the people that were on that committee as non-council members to still show up, the staff-wise.
I agree.
But what I think we need to do is just, as far as the committee members go, to just the elected officials on this particular committee. And then perhaps we can solicit some members from the public, maybe like a developer, like we talked about before, so we have another eye on the committee that we could have look at it. But I would say the two council members, and I would leave the two county commissioners, even though they pulled off that committee, I want to leave that open to them. I don't want to pull them off.
Well, since we met the other day, and you meant, if you leave them on there as members, and they don't show up, you're gonna have a quorum problem. If we leave the seats available, if they wanna do it, but I think if you had 2 county commissioners and say 2 or 3 councilmen, and 1 councilman misses, then you ain't gonna have a quorum
Are there a rule for how many people make a quorum?
at 50.
It has to be 50%, so if we have 4 members, then 2 people will be a quorum.
Right.
50 plus 1.
50 plus 1.
Is the safe rule. So if you'll have 5, if 3 of you will show up, you'll be safe.
But I agree that, the staff would still be come to the meeting, make recommendations and all, and be there to, carry out what was done, but, they probably need a 5-member committee.
So,
And then if the county came back in, you just make it 7.
well, I think I wanna leave them where they can come in at their discretion. I mean, I don't wanna delete them off the committee, because I think that's what they're wanting us to do, and I don't wanna do that. I wanna leave it open for their discussion. I'm trying to figure out how to get the right number, so if we had, the makeup question too is, I know, Paul, did you have any ideas as far as who can actually be on that without violating that, communication issue? Like, I know you can't be on it, obviously, as the head of utilities, because there's things you have to talk to each one of us about from time to time. But is there another employee that could possibly serve in that place as a 5th member that, necessarily doesn't have contact with the council?
Pretty much any one of the utility directors would fit into that category.
What would you think about, say, setting it up so that the committee will be the 2 council members, the 2 county commissioners, the water director, the gas director, and then one of the other directors? That way we have 7. If they don't show up, we've got 5. Because I don't know that we have direct communication with the directors. We're not supposed to talk to the manager.
Right.
And I think that would alleviate the issue, but still, it would provide the word of the, the people who are most knowledgeable about what's going on with utilities. Do you think that would solve the issue?
It would help, yes.
We can try it. I don't have any problem with that.
Do these directors go to meetings at the county, and would they possibly be in a meeting with one of these county commissioners that potentially would be serving? I think they do, don't they? Don't they sometimes go to county meetings and talk about utilities?
They're not necessarily on any, boards or anything, or any committees that I know of outside of just attending a county commission meeting or something like that.
But that's a notice to open public meeting, so if they spoke there. So, but now Mr. Dial does, he goes to a lot of those meetings, so that would be an issue. So I would like to see that be the makeup.
All as voting members?
Yes.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Fred, does the motion need to be to amend the ordinance?
No, there needs to be a consensus so that a resolution comes.
Can be brought back, yeah.
Okay. So you're making a recommendation to do that.
And we would need consensus.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
So the motion is to bring back a resolution to appoint these members?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Okay, next is 11 and 12 again is the fire pension and police officers pension board appointees. They need to work on those. Under ordinances, we have none. Under resolutions, item 13 is city council resolution number 2022-040. Mr. Carolina, could you read that by title?
Mr. Mayor.
On my form, I had this.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Well, I want to speak to the ordinance part of it, Mr. Mayor. I did take the time to read through some of the agenda package. It was very long, so I would admit I didn't read everything. But I do want to raise a question about the appointment to these committees, the advisory committee. According to the ordinance, it says that the mayor shall appoint members to these committees subject to the approval of the city council. I want to particularly talk about the CAR advisory committee. And well, as you know, I'm always concerned about diversity on the committee, but I'm also concerned about that it comes from all over the city. So I don't know where the people who sit on the advisory committee for the City of Lake City CR board lives. I don't know if there's at least one person from each one of the precincts, but I would suggest going forward, if the charter calls for you to be the one to make the recommendation, then it should be some effort in my view to get at least one person from each member of each individual district. And the other question I have, Mayor, I didn't find it, maybe Mr. Overline, that your person can tell me. Those on the advisory committee boards, does the chair of that committee have to be elected, or can a person appointed as a citizen chair that advisory board?
At one time, it said that, I don't know if the last one, but at one time, the council members had to be the chairman, except for the beautification, we did that one, it's separate, and had Ms. Lane as the chairman.
So the ordinance called for the chair have to be elected?
That did at one time.
Can I get a?
I'm not positive right now, but my intention is to go through all the committees and see where we're at.
I hate to ask you to put the city attorney on the spot, but is that something that he can answer tonight, or you can?
I don't know
if he can't, then that's fine.
Yeah, Mayor, as far as the utility committee, I can tell you the mayor makes a recommendation and selects the presiding chairperson. Does not have to be an elected official.
Okay.
But not CR.
I'm not sure right now.
I believe the mayor's the chairperson of the CRA, or the C.
I'm talking about.
I think it's in the ordinance.
I'm talking advisory committee. The advisory committee, not when you all meet.
No, the other one.
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. Jefferson is the chair of that one.
Chairman. So I think the mayor appoints that one to them.
Yeah.
Okay, the ordinance.
The mayor
called for
appointed
that,
them.
that's
He's looking at it now, I think.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, back to item 13, Mr. Kerwin. I did.
Resolution 22-40, Your Honor.
Yes.
One thing. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the city's participation in 3 settlements resulting from litigation concerning the opioid epidemic, providing for the execution of the Allergan settlement, CVS settlement, and Teva settlement, each of which is described by the Florida Attorney General, and providing for an effective date, period.
Is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2022-040?
Mayor, I move for approval of resolution number 2022-040.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2022-041. Mr. Kerwin, would you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the city by and through the Lake City Police Department to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Veterans Affairs to provide law enforcement services as needed, period.
Bowden, you want to speak?
No, I want to speak to the, I'm sorry about putting that down, I want to speak to, 15.
To 15? Okay. Next is there a motion as the City Council Resolution 2022-041?
Mayor, I move for the approval of resolution number 2022-041.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2022-042. Mr. Goodwin, would you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of City Lake City, Florida, accepting a bid from Holly Electric Incorporated relating to electrical services and repairs, providing for the award of an electrical services contract, providing for the execution of the electrical services contract, and providing an effective date, period.
And this is the one you want to speak to?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in fact, I'll speak to that one in the next four. What I've seen from reading the agenda package is that this same resolution applies to Holly Electric, CNC Electric, Gibson, and Graham and Son, and it's the same thing. And I'm just trying to understand, you pass a resolution to do business with each one of them, because when you look down through the fee scale, there's a difference in terms of how much they charge. The electrician top man in one firm is $115 an hour. I see somewhere else it's $55 an hour. So I guess my question is, do we enter into a resolution with all four of these companies? And why would that be the case if you're trying to get the low bid? I'm confused.
This would be for them to be able to bid, right?
Yes, it's put out as an ITV, and they generally select anywhere from 3 to 4 different companies to offer electrical services. This is the way it's always been done in the years past. And they do have some differences in price based on whether or not some of them will only send one electrical journeyman out, some might send 2, based on the different, what they're going to come and work on. But any 4 of them, the city is allowed to use any 4 of them because they have a contract with all 4.
Now, we've done that with engineers too.
Yes.
But how you determine whether or not you're getting I guess I'm concerned if you got a firm that's $55 an hour, somebody charge you $115 an hour, do you automatically with Mr. Dow, whoever making the outreach, would you reach out for the person that you got the contract with the least expensive? Would you just call anybody that's available?
Well,
I mean, how the process work? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Well, generally, Mr. Bowden, on the way we do our stuff, say like take utilities, for instance. You might have 4 electrical contractors, but you might have one that puts in a bid that his main thing might be just wiring buildings and things like that, small breakers, things of that nature. Then you might have like a big mechanical contractor for electricity that like wires the big pumps, lift stations and things like that. But generally, they all are held to going through procurement based on they have to meet the qualifications of the contract to be able to do the work.
Okay, I think that makes a sense.
Did that cover all these next items?
Yeah,
Okay.
all of them the same.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. Okay, is there a motion as the City Council Resolution 2022-042?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2022-042.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes, next is City Council Resolution 2022-043. Mr. Goodwin, will you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of City of Lake City, Florida, accepting a bid from CNC Electric LLC related to electrical services and repairs, providing for the award of an electrical services contract, providing for the execution of the electrical services contract, and providing an effective date, period.
Is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2022-043?
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of resolution number 2022-043.
Second.
With a motion and a second, discussion on this. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2022-044. Mr. Goodwin, read that by title.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, accepting a bid from Base 3 LLC, doing business as Gibson Electric, related to electrical services and repairs, providing for the award of an electrical services contract, providing for the execution of the electrical services contract, and providing an effective date, period.
Is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2022-044?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2022-044.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Ox, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2022-045. Mr. Carroll, would you read that one about that?
A resolution of City Council of City of Lake City, Florida, accepting a bid from Graham and Sons Electric Incorporated related to electrical services and repairs, providing for the award of an electrical services contract, providing for the execution of the electrical services contract, and providing an effective date period.
Is there a motion that City Council Resolution 2022-045?
Mr. Mayor, move for approval of resolution number 2022-045.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Ox, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2022-046. Would you read that one, Mr. Carroll?
A resolution of City Council of City of Lake City, Florida, rejecting all bids received relating to the invitation to bid advertised by the city and concerning the Edgetuckney Quality and Quantity Enhancement Project, and providing for an effective date period.
Is there a motion that City Council Resolution 2022-046?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of Resolution 2022-046.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Ox, will you call the roll?
Is that Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Sorry. Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Okay, we've already took care of 20 and 21. Item 22 is, Mr. Cooper line, I believe.
Item 22 is, relates to a request from me as the city attorney and the outside litigation counsel, desiring advice concerning the pending litigation. There are two cases pending, both filed by Ms. Faithful Coker against the city and/or city council and others. They've been consolidated in the case 2021-268-CA. For efficiency, we could schedule the litigation session after the upcoming May 16th city council meeting.
I'm good with that. Fine with that. Okay. Anybody else have anything on that? If not, we'll have to meet after the next meeting. No Department of Administration, Mr. Hill.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would like to, invite everyone out on Saturday to the, over by the old football stadium, Memorial Stadium. I'm having my second annual, Unity Day celebration. And I would like to see everybody come out, enjoy themselves. I'm gonna have, hamburgers, hot dogs, fried fish, bounce houses, and some games for the kids. So
What time is it?
it's gonna be from 11 to 3.
Okay. All right, and I'd like to congratulate, Mr. Coberline on, his election. And there's nothing else.
Mr. Mayor, you got
I
something?
just want to ask a question when you get done.
The emergency housing grants, to start that off, I was wondering, I talked to Mr. Kraus about that. I think they're ready to move forward. I know Terry Phillips had to give us some more information on the application because we changed it a little from what they were doing. I don't know if we need to authorize moving forward on that, but I think they're ready to hook that to our website and start the application process. And we may need a separate resolution to come back to fund it. But what we could do, is there a way we could go ahead and authorize them to start the application process? Because they're not gonna be ready to fund it, today, but that way we could get the application started. Is there a way to do that?
You could certainly do that. It's putting the cart before the horse, but if you're 99.9% sure you're going to adopt the rules and regulations that the county uses, then you might as well go ahead and start. I reminded Mr. Kraus again today that we need those rules and regulations so that the city council can adopt those. And then the application process would be implemented.
I think Ms. Phillips, she was here earlier, she had those transcribed, I think, and changed to reflect the city, so I don't know. I guess we need to approve those, but we need it, so with the time frame and the process, I mean, I don't wanna hold up the application piece because there's a lot of people ready to apply. I think the sooner we can get that out there, the better. If there's a way we could set a date and say, you know, let's get the application rolled out, I'd be all for that.
Well, I would like to think that by May 16th, you'll have the rules and regulations here, especially if Ms. Phillips has already done some of the heavy lifting. And so you could set the applications to run until sometime after that, so that people who learn of the program only at that point would have a little bit of leniency to apply also. We can make the applications retroactive to a pre-existing date at that time, and therefore accept everything that you already have in the hopper. So again, it is getting the cart before the horse, but if you are 99.9% sure you're gonna adopt the program, and hopefully at May 16th, then it's not gonna harm anything.
You did May 16th.
I mean, I think that'll be fine.
I do too. Hey, Ms. Allen.
I just have a question. Since there is some concern on the composition of the committees, are we going ahead and moving forward with the other committees still meeting, or are we going to address their?
I'm gonna look at them between now and the 16th. See if there's any conflict.
We have a beautification committee meeting scheduled the first part of, this month, as
Right.
well as CRAC, so do those meetings need to be canceled until you guys discuss it on the 16th?
I don't think there's anything on beautification right now this month. We've already done the Arbor Day resolution and everything, so we
So-
don't need to have a meeting.
So no committee meetings set for until after we get.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank y'all for coming. You're done. Okay.